Hi, everyone, and welcome to our second Like the Grass Composers Chat, which is what I'm calling it. I think we have already introduced Neo Muyango, who we spoke to before, a composer and music maker from South Africa. And we're really happy today to have Lukas Huber from Switzerland talking to us today. A little bit about the project before Antonia introduces Lukas. This quartet is a collaboration between South African and Swiss and German musicians. We all met in 2018 and we released an album last year based on that first meeting. And this is the follow-up project called Like the Grass Atelier. Anto.
Yes, hi, welcome, Lukas. So nice that you have the time.
Nice that you have the time.
Yeah. Actually, I think Cara and Lukas already met in Basel in Switzerland, because Lukas also plays in the unorthodox jukebox orchestra, and Cara visited us and played with us when she was here with her residency. And yeah, I don't know, I could say so many things about Lukas because he did a lot of work. Like he's a lot of composing stuff for electronic music, for choir, for piano, for a lot of things for musical theater or like theater music, I think. And I know that he likes very much improvisation because I improvise with him. And so I don't know if that's right if I say it, but one could say your work is very diverse. Like, I don't know if it's the right term, but like you do different things, and you're not only interested in music as a composer, but what I see with your work, you also are interested in, well, you said I'm interested in the we, in what brings people together or what separates them, and also in the work with body and voice. Mm-hmm. And so I guess there are many things in his work we can relate to. And I actually know, maybe he will tell us later, that he has a new project this year, which is an opera, a solo opera. And I think that's very interesting. It's called Slow Fire, I think. Through me.
Half the title.
Oh, half the title.
Slow Fire durch mich.
So durch mich. Yeah, it means through me. Yeah. So maybe he will tell us later something about that.
Amazing. Thank you. Good intro. Very good intro.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lukas. Does anyone want to start with some questions?
Well, actually, I realized when I was looking at your amazing work, which does sublime stuff and so diverse and fantastic. So thank you so much for sharing it. But I realized that I've actually seen something of yours. Because when I was in Switzerland at Gesnerale, the Requiem for a Piece of Meat.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I was there. Well, the minute I saw those body bags, I was like, I can't forget this.
Oh yeah.
I've definitely. It's amazing work, and it's kind of dealing with themes about the meat industry in general. And I'm sure Lukas can tell us more about it. But I'd love to hear that it was definitely quite a dark and harrowing place that performers had to go into. So I'd love to hear about your relationship working with musicians in a place of discomfort and darkness, and what that process is like, because it's not just your average kind of rehearsal. They really in the thick of the subject matter and everything. But please tell them about the piece a bit. And
mm-hmm. You want me to answer specifically for that piece or in general?
Oh, well, that or in general, I just think it's an example. Like, it seems in a lot of your work, there's a huge integration between musicians and actors, and maybe even non-musicians, that they're all very much embodied in the concepts of the work. So they're not just, sitting on the side doing their thing. They on stage, the instruments are involved. I'd love to hear about that.
Okay, I see. I mean, I guess I'm not. I guess the main point probably is that I'm not really interested in imagining sound. The standard composer, or at least the Western European composer myth of that the composer should be able to imagine sound and then project on the musicians and use them I mean, that's okay. That's expressed quite drastically, but I often I feel really discomfortable with the, when I'm given the feeling that I have to supply an ensemble in order to be able to make music, and that's really, I guess that's really the biggest possible contrast of how I understand what music is about. And so I try to create settings where this where sound imaginations and projections are not that important. I mean, ideally of everybody involved, and I try to be not interested in genres, for example. Of course, I have my preferences, but I try to forget them when I work together with people. And I mean, because why should I have the right to project music on somebody? So so in this piece, for example, I mean, I mean, the whole performance was semi-installative. Maybe we could say, I mean, we had a clear structure, but nevertheless it was more of a space that was inhabited by people and animals. Originally we started to work with animals on stage, and then I mean, we try to find possibilities that everybody can have space in a physical way and in a metaphorical way. I mean, and if I'm talking about all of this, I could probably mention a project where I learned very, very much into this direction. And we formed together with 3 friends, with Sahara Rodrigo, she's a stage designer from Berlin, with Benny van Beber, who's a director from Hamburg, and Leo Hoffmann, who is a composer from Hamburg. We formed an ensemble that we called Extremely Mixed Choir in Hamburg. And I mean, it is an extremely mixed choir. So there are lots of very old people. There are children in there. There are opera singers, actors, lots of amateurs. And there are super German people, Syrian people. I mean, it's just a very mixed choir. And the process with them when we started was so productive, because we came to the first rehearsals, and for example, the actors did what actors normally do in first rehearsals. I mean, not that they wanted something specific, but I mean, there are mechanics in their bodies, and normally the people opposed to them know how to read them, and then you can work with that. And the funny thing is, the non-theater people, which were most of them, didn't understand what they were doing. And then the actors realized that they didn't know that they are actually doing something. And so the whole process was it was pure communication, the whole thing. Just finding out how to communicate, how to be able to communicate with each other, and questions like genre or aesthetic preferences were not important at all. And in the end, it was something where we could easily aushalten. How could I say that in English?
Maybe bear it, like
bear,
or endure. Yeah, to bear or endure.
Or endure all the positions. There was not the question in there if something is good or not. Everybody is there and has their space. And I learned really a lot through that to I mean, and also realize that it's really important to not only work with pros all the time, with professionals, because then you're blind very, very fast. and then I mean, in the extreme case, it's not about communication at all anymore. And then you have this thing of you're on stage and you're supposed to send music, and you're in the audience and you're supposed to receive music, and that is really not what music is about.
No, that's so beautifully put, and I really agree with you on that point. I think a lot of us do. That's when you talk about all these different outcomes and all these different possibilities, what is the process of choice? For example, with the extremely mixed choir, of all these things coming up, how do you, or who directs, or who manages to decide what you're keeping in and what you don't? Just what you keep and what you don't, I guess.
Yeah, that. Yeah, I see. The question in that sense, strangely, never. Yeah, I mean, it never appears in the way when you're working with professionals, and then you have to throw things out because it doesn't work. It was rather we were looking for a way so everybody feels comfortable and anything works. I mean, it sounds super idealistic and utopian, but and I mean, of course, there were. I mean, it was not all rosa. I mean, it was not all everything all the time super easy, and of course, you have struggles and resistances. But nevertheless, I don't remember situations of telling somebody or somebody telling to somebody, you cannot do that. It doesn't fit. I don't remember it. Yeah.
Can I ask something about that ensemble? Did it, like, I'm assuming it's ongoing, that group?
We have a premiere next week.
Okay.
Wow.
Very, very much ongoing.
Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, in terms of the singers' experiences, because I think, how I'm interested in how they all felt, especially the people with less singing experience, or the amateur singers, or the younger singers. I guess Galina and I both come from quite a conventional classical background originally, so I'm just judging here. I'm guessing. I'm going out on a limb here, Gazi, but it feels like we're kind of interested in this debunking, the breaking down of the hierarchy in music in all senses, because we lived so much with a very, very hierarchical way of training and playing and composing also, exactly as you're saying in this work. But I'm wondering what the singers felt in the end. I guess it was probably a very unorthodox and maybe transformational experience to be in a space where it was about communicating rather than about all the set cues and the rigid ways in which we already know how to work if we're trained musicians, and how the people with less experience felt about the performances or the process.
But if you say singers, you mean the professionals, or you mean everybody?
I mean everybody.
Okay. How they felt? I mean, I can only say that we're all very good friends, and this never happens if you're working with professionals, or very rarely. I mean, you have a good time during rehearsals, but in the end, I mean, I don't keep in touch with that many people that I work with, and with this choir, we're all very good friends, and really everybody knows everybody very well, and so in that sense, we all felt pretty well.
That sounds like it was a success.
Yeah, but I mean, through this, and this was really the main thing, and then I mean, I don't know if you were aiming at that, but I mean, there was not really the question of does somebody dare to sing if you're next to an opera singer who knows how to sing? But I mean, everybody was just or is doing what they can and want. And if you're very good, a good singer in a conventional way, you don't have to hide it. You can just sing that way. And I mean, there's a really funny thing even in that ensemble, that we have an almost mute member. I mean, now it has changed a little, but when we started for the first project, she was probably 10, young girl, and she was super shy, and she never sang, but she always moved her lips. and also during the performances, and that was very important. And there was not a thing of you have to sing, or I mean, even that, it was her presence was very important, and the non-singing was very loud in some way. Yeah.
Did the people of the choir know each other before, or was it just formed for that project, or how did that come? Yeah,
it was formed for that project, but nevertheless, some of them knew each other because everybody's from Hamburg, and
oh yeah, in Hamburg, okay.
And then
yeah,
I mean, there's always some overlaps, yeah, but not everybody, of course.
Okay.
I was just thinking about communication and about safe space, because what I hear out of this project is that there is a very safe space, that the people who create this space so that everyone can feel comfortable and knows that they are okay with their kind of performance or what they bring in this space. And with improvisation, maybe there's something else similar, because in improvisation it's also a little bit about a safe space, right? If you improvise with someone and maybe you don't know them or you know them well, it's also about trust. How far can I go, or what are our, how do you say it? What is our base? You know, where do we want to go? What is possible? Can we be unfriendly? Can we be harsh in that kind of music making, or can we, you know, are we polite? So I can relate to that in this sense. I mean, we also we have this, or we play in this unorthodox jukebox orchestra, where you also did a very great composition, circles. It's called Kreise, circles. And I don't know what you think about this, about safe space and improvisation, or where's maybe the boundary?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I feel it there very strong with this ensemble, out of a similar reason, because we're about 20 people, more 25, if everybody's there. And I don't know, probably the oldest member is 60, somewhere 65, around 65, and the youngest was, at least when we started, probably 19 or so, and studied jazz, and the other has done free improv for 50 years or almost 50. And so there's also there's such a huge ambitus of background of experience that you cannot even start to judge. It doesn't make sense. And I guess that's thanks to the number as well there, because I feel sometimes in smaller groups, improvising in smaller groups, it's not that easy, because then yeah, as you said, you can be polite, you can provoke, and you judge. I mean, when I started improvising, I really had to learn not to judge. I mean, that's, yeah, very platitude, but that's super easy in this big ensemble, I think, because aesthetically there's a lot of things. If I would be in the mode of judging objectively, I mean, of course not, but if I would be in this judging mode, there's a lot of things happening that I probably wouldn't like. But with this contrast and this possibility of overlaps, and with this whole experience thing in mind, I don't care, and I can really well endure it as well in that ensemble. That and that doesn't mean that it has an impact on me in the sense of, hey, I can do whatever I want, because it doesn't matter. I mean, everybody's doing very seriously, participating very seriously, I feel, and thanks to that, there's no need in being provocative towards the others, I feel. And in smaller groups, it's not always easy. It really, I don't know how you feel and your experiences, but it can be difficult still with knowing, or with having had these judging experiences. I mean, still I'm sometimes in a concert situation where I feel that yeah, there's there's yeah, this game going on with provoking and being polite, and which yeah, I mean, that's not that interesting, I guess, but suddenly you're in it. Or what are your experiences?
Rosie, looks like you wanted to say something.
Oh, I was going to say something before. It was just more of a question, like, because the one thing is when you're doing free improvisation and you're thinking just from a sonic perspective, but what's so interesting about that is that you're improvising narrative as well. You're improvising story as another layer, or not even a separate layer, as just part of music, which seems just to be a whole level of complexity. That is really fascinating, and I'd love to hear about just a bit more about how, I guess on a very practical level, how you navigate that, or what you can describe of it. Sometimes it is just magic. You don't always have the words for what it is, but I'm really interested in this thing of improvised narrative because of some research that I might be doing later, where you're not just trying to make music for music's sake, but you're trying to tell a story, but collectively tell a story, and tell a story from people who are musicians, non-musicians, so-called.
I'm not sure. Probably you have to say a little more, but I'm not sure, because when I hear you're telling a story, it sounds like what I call the sound imagination before, or projection. Because when but it's just my association. Because when I would play a concert, but with my terms, and as I understand it, with the setting of telling a story, then I would feel the need to have to follow that story, or it has to be schlüssig, and it has to make sense in some way.
Yeah.
And that would probably block me, but I probably misunderstand you. That's not what you mean, right? Not having a plan, but
not so much about a plan, but just that you're working, or you're also working with dramaturgy, and you're working with movement. So it's not a concert where people are just improvising. People are moving, people are saying things, speaking, or there are words coming out. So there's collective meaning. I guess I have a lot more experience only just when it's just a purely musical exercise, where you haven't crossed that barrier as well into speaking. For example, when the four of us played together, we were still in that context sitting down, and we had instruments, and we might sing a sound, but we were actually, Antonia, you work with words a bit more, actually, now that I'm saying that.
Yeah, but now I understand that you are like asking about the project with the mixed choir, right? This is what you were.
Yeah,
you were still referring to that. Okay, I didn't understand it.
I also personally.
Hey, I don't know if that, I mean, that's just a decision that it's a different setting, but I guess you just express different things with different settings and different people involved, and I don't think that you can express less if it's clear that there are not words or movement involved or anything. You can, I mean, it's just, it's just a decision that we formed this ensemble, and we called it choir, and there were some text propositions there, and then this happened. But I don't feel that it's that there are more possibilities, because more forms of expression are used. But is that a response to, or?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
okay. Sounds like it.
I think I can relate to this. No, I just want to say that I can relate to this. It's an intention, or it's a decision, to work with kind of material, or to work with kind of also singing, or also words. Maybe sometimes it's, it's what kind of words you use to frame the things. For example, I also never used this term of storytelling, or following something, or maybe I use this word, I'm going to follow something like a sound or a movement, or I don't. It has nothing to do if I if I use words or if I use a sound, or what I mean is like you do the connection, like we all together like maybe do the connection, or have a decision in the moment. And this is what I find interesting about improvisation, that you everyone has their own decisions in the and then it's going to be a big decision. And I want to refer to what you said earlier about this, in a big ensemble. It's true, there's a different kind of listening maybe, or also judging about things. And when I play in a duo, I also have this kind of very free approach in what I find interesting. And when it's more than 2 people, like 3, 4, 5, I start to not maybe judge, maybe it's not the right word, but I start to frame things more. I don't know why. And then if it's again a lot of more people, then it gets free again. So freer.
I think that was my, playing with that ensemble in Switzerland was, I think it was maybe the first time I played improvised with so many people, like that size of group. But I think when it's smaller, for me, when it's a smaller group, I think it feels to me like, what you were saying about communication, free improvisation seems so much about communication and sensing from other people. And I find that sometimes it's a bit of an overload if it's a smaller group. If someone, you're so sensitive to the dynamics and what someone is putting forward, if something is confident or someone's retreating, or it's you in some ways it's really nice in that way, because it's so sensitive to like what everyone is bringing and how they're feeling in that space and what sound they're making. And then in the bigger group, it felt like there was less space to just continually contribute. So it was a little freer, because then I could also think a little bit more about myself, but at the same time about the bigger group. I don't know if that makes sense, but it felt a little bit more like I was less in tune with every single person's experience of what they were contributing and how they were feeling in that space and how they were sounding in the space. Even though obviously the intimacy of the smaller group is really lovely, but it's that was my experience. And I think I haven't really had that big playing experience for improvisation since then. Yeah, that was my thought.
But then there was also COVID now, so
yeah.
No one could really.
But I completely agree. I really like this thing of, you can be quiet for 20 minutes and do one thing if you feel like it, or you can play the whole time. There's one member in our orchestra who I think plays all the time in every concert, but it's not aufdringlich. It's just
pushy.
there.
I don't know. Yeah.
And but at least not feeling forced to. If you. In 2, it's really extreme if you play with in 2s, and also in 3, that or at least I have that I really fast have this feeling of I'm letting somebody hang in the. Can I say that or and you have to support.
Yeah.
It's much harder to endure a solo absurdity with when you're playing in 2 than when you're playing with 20 people, because when there's a solo happening, it's clear that it's a decision and it's nobody. If 19 people decide not to play, then it's really a decision. And if you're 2, you start to think, maybe he or she is waiting for me.
Yeah.
That's true.
You have this you have this trio UFO, or what UFO.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you could say it in English or in German. UFO.
Mm-hmm.
UFO. UFO. You also released 2 records. It's a trio, right? And no, because okay. Because I always thought that you started as a trio or something, and then you also invite people all the time. And I wanted to ask, maybe. Like how you.
We started as a duo, if you want, but we called it from the beginning an openly structured band, and we played probably with 300 people in the last 10 years. I don't know. Now we exist for 10 years, and now we're doing a pop record. Really, we try to do songs again, we're a trio in the core, and we did song fundaments and sent them to different singers, and they sent it back, and then we did ping pong. Wow. And now we have to date we have 13 pop songs, whatever that means, and with different singers, and we're going to play it live with 2 singers who have to adapt what other singers did, and which normally is not done in that context. And we tried to take out a little of this front man, front woman situation, role playing, with these roles in the band things, because they adapt something they didn't do themselves. So, and then in this process, and now we're doing the whole starting the whole promo thing. We talked a lot about what we actually are and what we want to be. And we for example, found out that UFO, we always felt that UFO is a really bad name, but and that we always wanted to change it. And now we talked about it for a very long time, and we found out that it's the ideal name, because you do not identify with it. And it's important for this band that we don't have this band identification thing. So it's and now we found out that our dream would be that since we're now with this pop thing collaborating with a lot of people that have a lot of who have their own channels on different layers, that it would be nice, first of all, that we would become kind of a bodiless band, that actually the 3 of us are the core, and we're always there, but we wouldn't even have a homepage or a Facebook page or whatever, but it's spread through all the people who participate, and we're kind of we're always there, but nobody knows who we are. This would be the first dream, and the second dream would even be that we would have several UFOs in some years, so that that it could be 15 people who can relate to each other, and then could play in different combinations, and then several bands could be on tour at the same time, and it would be the same band who plays the same song, but in different and always in different. So that's why I said we're not a trio, but I mean in the core we're a trio, but ideally we're just a Schnittmenge. Yeah.
And anything you can do to confuse Spotify it's
anything
to confuse Spotify.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean UFO is already not helping with that, because there are so many bands who are called UFO, and
I actually looked, because I saw the stuff on Bandcamp, and then I was like, this is beautiful, I want to hear, and I went on Spotify, I was like, okay, definitely not this, definitely not this. Maybe it is, maybe you're full of surprises. Exactly. You could be like a hardcore metal band, maybe. You never know.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's actually so poetic, when we were just talking about storytelling, what is storytelling? Are we using that term? But what you just now told, the story is very poetic, I think.
Antonia, it brings me an interesting question. It's is storytelling, do you think it's a bad word nowadays? Because I heard in academia, apparently narrative is out. You can't say that word because it's become so loaded. And I think it's really interesting clarifying what we say when we talk about storytelling. Because, for example, if I say it, I'm not necessarily saying it's a story that is being authored with an intention, with a beginning and an end. A story can also emerge collectively. Story doesn't mean there has to be one storyteller, or that the storyteller knows what is happening at the end, but it still can be a story. But those terms are so different because everyone interprets it so differently, I think.
Yeah. But that's the thing with words anyway.
That's what I thought when you were talking before, Antonia, that it would rather be that I can relate to it, how you described it now, Galina, in the sense of that a story is told, but nobody is telling the story actively. But as a whole, a story is told, probably. And but it's not made with a there's ideally no projection in it, but I mean in the end probably it is a story, or Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What I also like about improvised concerts, like when I play it or when I listen to it, I just forget everything. It's so great. There's a taste, I remember a taste, but sometimes I remember moments, but I never remember all of it. It's like a little bit like being stoned or something. It mostly not happen with composed music, strangely.
I have this
I don't know.
very intense experience in the audience when I'm listening to totally improvised music, in that I suddenly have tons of ideas about lots of stuff, like organizing my life, what I want to do in 10 years time, what music that I want to write, or now I'm going to take up knitting, and it's like my brain organizes itself while I listen to free improv. Or maybe I'm not properly listening. Sometimes I'm listening and sometimes I'm not, but it triggers something. It's extremely noticeable that my brain just goes into overtime, and then I walk out the concert like, okay, I know what's happening now in my life. It's so weird, but it never happened. It doesn't happen with any other music, only that.
I think this kind of makes sense, actually, because improvised music actually is like very associative in a way, at least for me.
Yeah.
So that even if you're just a listener, that might put you in that headspace also, like.
Totally.
I can 100. I mean, this is what you are describing, Cara. I can relate to it 100%, and I have thought about it a lot. But it does not only happen with improvised music with me, and I mean, it's very banal to explain it like that. But for me, it's completely clear why this is happening, because this. I mean, this would mean that somebody communicates with you, in the sense of, I mean, you go to a concert, for example. I mean, that does not only happen with music to me. You go to a concert and you prepare to pay attention, and then you start to think about something else. I mean, that's a sign that you're auf dem falschen Fuß erwischt. Oh God, how could you explain this expression?
That's actually, I don't know. They got us on the wrong feet. I think we actually talked about this, Galina, at some point. Auf dem falschen Fuß erwischt. Something got me on the wrong foot.
Falsche Füße. Yes.
And what I mean with it is, you prepare to pay attention, and then you're not able to pay attention. That means that something is happening, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, the worst thing that can happen in a concert is that you feel trapped because somebody is constantly screaming at you. I mean, metaphorically. I mean, it can be very quiet, but still somebody can scream at you, in the sense of what I said before, with this direction thing. And the strange thing is, when I drift away, in the end, I always have understood much more than when I was constantly screamed at. Because when you have to understand something, I mean, it has to fail, because you're not invited to communicate, right?
Totally. And you also, I mean, you have to let go to make meaning in some way for yourself also, whether it's emotional or, even in the simplest sense. It's like you can't, it has to make sense to you. And so your brain has to do what it wants to do, in all senses, your brain and your heart, whatever the aesthetic experience is, so that it makes meaning for you.
And your desire, Lukas, your desire to decentralize things and to kind of challenge those hierarchies and to be in just more fluid and democratic structures in music, like the way your philosophy with it, is that something that developed later in your career, or has your relationship with sound always felt that free, or did you have to overcome something to be in that space?
I mean, there were always, of course, these boundaries and some points where I realized that I probably have to overcome something, or that I'm trapped somewhere in a corner. But I mean, it's not the big story of that's the development, and here is the wall, and then I realized I have to jump. I mean, it's always just little steps. And I mean, I really did a lot of compositions in the last few years, also in a very conventional way. And there, for example, I realized that it is very far away from how I originally started to relate to music. I mean, I really, because I used to play in bands a lot, and this is how I would start to practice music. And that's a very different working process. And I had to go in this composition thing to realize what a band actually I mean, what a band actually is. And now I can I mean, it's not that I don't like composing, but I just now can understand how this working in bands, what it really is about, and I can try to bring it in or bring the other thing. I mean, this is, for example, a small detour. And for example, I was studying electronic music, and there it was really, it got on my nerves that the software everybody was working with, or the individual softwares or a technique, were so important. And then during most of my electronic music thing, I was playing the piano, and because I felt so. I mean, if you're talking about walls, because or you weren't talking about walls, but in a different. For example, I felt that I cannot relate to being I just, it was kind of a maybe, I mean, not rebellious in the thing of I want to show something to somebody, but I just I felt good with playing piano while everybody else was doing experimental electronic music. I don't know what that means.
Can I ask you to say something?
Reverse rebellion.
Going back to what Antonia said at the beginning, could you tell us about the opera project you're working on right now?
Mm-hmm. That I mean, that is really the first time in 10 years that I feel so close to something I was doing or I'm doing. I really feel completely comfortable with it, and I don't need feedback. That's really, I mean, I can do it, and I'm not. I don't depend on feedback, and that almost never. I mean,
word feedback, not screechy feedback.
Sorry?
I mean, feedback in words.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's lots of other feedback.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, it's not funny. It's not funny. I don't know why I said that. It just came out.
No, it's. I mean,
edit that
is there feedback in? No, there's no feedback in the piece. So but no. I mean, in the sense of that, I don't need support. I know what it is, and it's very close to me, and it's very personal, and so it cannot fail. And I did 2 weeks ago. I did the official premiere, where I played it publicly. And this was kind of an ally and because you wouldn't get funding if you're only playing in private and semi-private contexts. But it's actually the plan for that project to play mainly in private and semi-private contexts, because because of a lot of reasons. But because I like this idea of being a guest as a performer and not being the what's Gastgeber in English?
The host.
The host, yeah. Because then there's already a hierarchy established, and if I'm invited to a existing social context, and then I perform, I mean, it's already less dramatic. I feel, plus my understanding of making music. I mean, I really try to to do music all the time, in the sense of that everything I do is music. Also writing mails, or I mean, what we're doing here is obviously music, and it's really not a dramatic thing, and it's not only when you're in a performance and the lights are out, and you know, people are clapping afterwards, that you're doing music. But I mean, I'm all about music, and it's and I feel that it's not right that only the thing you're doing in the super ritualized concert context is called music. And that's also why I wanted to do it rather in that it's, you know, that it's linked to eating together and talking together, and doing this piece is kind of a continuous thing, which the talking together would also already be part of the piece, but not in the sense of that that I integrate it in some very clever way or so. I mean, it is a piece with a start and end, and I also respect this thing. Of course, there is a stage. Also, when I playing in a living room, if I do this, it is still is a stage. So it's not. I don't claim to break up with all the rituals and blah blah. I mean, it's there's still stuff, but talking about it, or drinking and eating before and afterwards, it is, to me, is just part of it. And yeah, and it's it's really it's on lots of layers. I like it very much. I also, for example, I'm everything is, I mean, it's I have a mobile setting. There's kind of a meuble furniture, a little piece where all my equipment fits in perfectly, and I can travel with it by train, and all the lights are in there. And then I come to a place where I'm going to perform. I can build it up in 10 minutes and put it back together again in 10 minutes. And the furniture thing is already is also the one and only stage Bühnenelement on stage. So everything I come with is also part of the stage, and then nothing is hidden, blah blah blah, which is important for me, because my experience with digital media, oh God, how can I do this bridge? You know, showing I feel that okay, I do a little detour, but I'll come back at this point again. The whole piece is controlled by my voice. I have a microphone, and I do not have any other sensors. I do not. My laptop is not visible. I mean, it is black. I don't have any hidden movement sensors or knobs, which would be this standard solution if you want to use a complex programmation, and then to be sure that you can control it somehow. And I decided to only use my voice, which makes the programmation extremely complicated, because then you know, like the programmation detects how loud I am, how long the pauses are, which I'm doing. Sometimes it detects words, etc., etc. In order to have, first of all, myself an experience of what it means. If you what this disconnect or disembodiment would probably be the word. Disembodiment means if you're working with digital media, because this is the main thing about digital media, that you have an input and the output. There's no physical necessity that the output is linked to the input, but that the algorithm decides how input and output are linked. And algorithms are always ideological. and not I mean, there's always lots of human decisions behind how you translate an input to what output. And I feel that and I probably also feel it myself, or am misguided by it, that a lot of people, yes, including myself, have this intuitive feeling that digital has something to do with objectivity, probably because numbers are involved, and numbers are free of value, and then in the end that means that everybody thinks that if you have a picture, a photography, for example, with higher resolution, it's more objective than a picture with less resolution. And I mean, it is the contrary. A picture with 1 pixel is more objective than a picture with I don't know how many pixels, because then more decisions had to be made how to translate what was photographed into. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and I wanted to use just my voice in order to have this experience of what it means. I mean, this is the only input, and the outputs of what's happening with my voice and what I trigger with my voice, etc. There's a lot of different things happening, and through this decision only to use my voice, I can experience this embodiment, I feel, and I hope that intuitively you would also experience from the outside, also because of the fact that actually all the inputs are can be perceived by everyone, because it's Schall. Oh God, what is Schall in English?
Sonic, or like,
yeah, because it's emissions, probably sonic emissions, because I mean, of course, if you're into performance, you don't know if I have some knobs hidden somewhere, but nevertheless, I feel that it has an impact on my attitude and probably can be perceived in some way. That was probably very confusing and not that clear how that can be linked, right?
It was clear.
No,
I think it was pretty clear. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, yeah, that's just really a big struggle for me. This whole this whole wish to objectify things, to be unsterblich, to be immortal. I mean, why? I don't want to be immortal, and I don't want to be remembered to things I produce. I am or through and I mean, and music, that is really I mean, music, and this is also a small a part of the opera, but I mean, music is the art of the muses, which are the daughters of Mnemosyne, the goddess of memory. So music is the art of the daughters of memory, and music is memory, but okay, no, not music is memory, but music is about memory. But that would be a completely different understanding of memory compared to the whole objectifying thing, in the sense of you have produced something external of yourself through which you can memorize something.
Yeah.
And with music you can memorize something through experience, and not and there ideally there would be no need of objectify something. So and yeah, and that's just this struggle with and this does not mean at all that I dislike digital media. Quite in the contrary, I feel that you could work really experimental with digital media if you don't if you really take it serious, that this whole disembodiment thing, and it could bring you much further than if you would think that it has something to do with objectify things, with conserve things, or try to be immortal through digital listening in some way.
Björk has a
this really prevents it from being used experimentally in a constructive way. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted. I was saying, you reminded me, Björk said this one thing about how people have always associated technology as being a kind of a dead or an objective thing, but she loved to think about it like an animal and something unpredictable and something that kind of interacts with you, and that the way you treat it has to be like this wild animal that can bark and growl and do things wrong. And if you treat it like a living thing, the kind of results you get from it is very different as well.
And I mean, this whole disembodiment thing, I mean, this can really, I mean, yeah, then it is really something, I mean, yeah, that is, why would you use it to embody something and to control something, but rather to, yeah, communicate with it? And yeah, as you already said it much better.
Well, Björk said it. Way better than I did as well. So.
Guys, I have to leave in 7 minutes. I have a deadline, unfortunately.
I'm looking at the time curfew. Here, so let's round it up. Thank you so much. That was so interesting, and it was really great to, after having listened to all of your stuff and checking out all of your very, very diverse work, it was really nice to hear some of the ideas behind all of it. So thank you so much. Thanks for your time. Thanks to the team for making time on a late at night as well to do it. And yeah, let's keep in touch.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And could you please all send me some stuff and links? I mean, as a collective and individually, what you're, I mean, yeah, I'm wondering.
For sure. We'll send you, I'll make an email and put everyone together.
Please.
And then we'll send you a link to Galina's piece that just went live last week.
Oh, our piece.
So
it's all kind of a mishmash.
Our piece facilitated by Galina, yeah.
Also, I just wanted to mention, I was also listening to a piece of yours, Lukas, which you wrote in 2019, a duo piece, which I really like. Just wanted to mention that.